Welcome to another episode of Baja Tales and Travels. Real stories, real people, real Baja. Today, I'm going to be talking with Joe Self, who, along with his wife Tracy, have created a really unique little community space right here in Rosarito. So, with that being said, welcome, Joe. Thanks for taking the time to come visit us.
Thank you very much. Tracy wasn't able to make it. It would have been much more interesting with her, but I'll
Well,
do the best I can.
okay,
All right.
okay. And I'm sure she'll be your best critic on this whole thing. So tell us a little bit. Where are you guys from originally?
Well, Tracy was born in the San Diego area and then moved to Texas when she was about 16 or 17.
Hmm.
We didn't meet till we were almost 40. I was born in Texas, lived around the country, and ended up also in Fort Worth at the same time she did.
Hmm.
We met a little bit later, had other relationships and marriages and kids and things, but connected around 40. And then we started a company, a design company. I was an architect. She was an interior designer
Hmm.
in Fort Worth, and had 20 years of just wonderful practice of architecture and furniture and art and all kinds of fun things. And one of the things we did there that kind of leads to what we did here is for 3 years, we did a radio program once a
Oh,
week
wow.
on Sundays, KTCU, and it was called Design Talk. And it was questions people would call in or send email questions about design, because we were always answering questions with our clients about, what about this? What about that? So we did that for 3 years. That was fun. So that was an outreach thing. So there's a theme to this story.
That's
The
cool.
next thing we did after that was the also called Design Talk, but it was set in the building or the space, the American Institute of Architects, and it was a monthly lecture series that we organized, and we'd bring in contractors, other architects, landscape architects, artists, all kinds of people in to describe what they do in the building process. And so, gathering people together, gathering stories was something that has always been really important to us,
Hmm.
and that's something that we brought to Baja.
It's interesting because this is what this is all about. Because Baja is filled with lots of people with lots of stories.
It really is, and it's something. It's funny, part of it is probably being retired, but we have made more friends and met more interesting people here in the last 10 years than we did in 20 years working together
And that.
in Fort Worth. Now, when you're working, you're busy and all that sort of thing. We have time to maybe
Hmm.
cultivate these friendships, but it's really been something that the stories, the people, it's
Hmm.
just an amazing group, it's a community. Yeah.
So, Casita Amarilla, the
Yes.
yellow
Yeah.
house,
Little Yellow
the
House.
little yellow
Yes.
house. That's
Yes.
right, Casita. Tell me how that came to be.
Well, we had already purchased a condo in this one neighborhood right across the way from the casita. And we had noticed that this little building was just sitting there, and somebody was living there sometimes, somebody
Mm.
wasn't living there sometimes. And so we kind of kept an eye on it because they were a neighbor. But when we started moving all of our things from Texas, we had thousands of books just because we like books and we
Hmm.
collected lots of books. And so we thought, wouldn't it be cool as part of this thing that we like to do, being a part of the community, is to have a little bookstore. So we looked at some strip shopping centers and some other spaces, and there were always rules like, oh, you got to be open 6 days a week, or you have to be open eight hours, and we didn't want that kind of commitment. We wanted to do it on our terms, and so we kind of we looked and looked. Well, at one point, this little house next door to
Hmm.
us, where we lived, came up for sale, and so it was some Americans, and so we purchased it. And we also knew that we had to get the parking lot out front because we had, well, like in any kind of thing where you gather people, you got to take into consideration parking. It's
And
something we learned in our practice.
and here in Rosarito,
Yes,
parking is
yes.
a big issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the parking lot is right next to Ollie's Brick Oven Pizza,
Hmm.
just to the north there, and the casita is beyond that, and the house is, it's about 750 square feet, but we put as many books in there as we could. And part of it was the books, but the other part was, okay, what about events? What about gathering people?
Hmm.
Um, that was the other part of this that was important to us. And so we have groups that meet there. We have a monthly casita talk. In fact, in May 13th, we have Julie Albright, who teaches at USC. She's going to be talking about AI.
Very
That'll be at
interesting.
3 o'clock on the 13th. And we may have Bob Urell, who was, we kind
Right.
of tentatively have Bob, who was on your show,
Right.
scheduled for July. I'm
Now
sorry,
these are
June.
Now these are open events. Anybody can
Open
attend.
events, free.
Mm-hmm.
They're always free. And so you park in the parking lot, you come through, and we gather in the gathering space.
Mm.
And the speaker, we've had authors talk about their books. We had somebody talk about Bitcoin once. We've had someone talk about the sort of magic of the landscape
Mm-hmm.
and indigenous traditions related to that. So it's really the range of things are a lot of fun to have happen
Oh.
there.
So, going back to the book part of it,
Yes.
first of all, because I'm very interested in that. So, what are the range of books? Are they like all architecture books? Are
No,
they
well, it's interesting. I
fiction?
did have a lot of architecture books, but and there were too many, and nobody was taking them out. And by the way, the books are all free.
Okay, that was going to be my next.
Yes,
So it's like
yes.
the sort of like a book
It's a
exchange,
free book
or
exchange, and so if somebody wants to, people bring books, and we love to receive books from people, and then you come in, you want to take as many as you want. We have paperbacks, we have hardcover, we have fiction, nonfiction, poetry, spiritual philosophy. The architecture
wow,
bits that I had a bunch of them. An architect in Ensenada or Tijuana that I know, I said, "Hey man, do you want some of these?" And he came out and took them because they just weren't moving off the shelf, and we
okay.
needed the space.
Well, at least you got a
So,
good home for them,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
that's
And,
good.
and so the books are a big part of it. We usually have a pot of coffee going. There's a kit. This was a little house, and so there's a kitchen in there. I mean, it's very modest. But when someone has an event, if they want to kind of stage some things and all of
Uh,
that, they can do
have some
that as well. Yeah,
snacks and
yeah.
stuff
So
like that.
that works. There's a refrigerator and all of that kind of thing. So we've tried to make it to where it says friendly and as accommodating as possible to different people coming in, whether it's an individual just strolling in on a.
Hmm.
We're open Tuesday, Wednesdays
Oh,
from
that was going to
11 to
be
3, Tuesday,
okay.
Wednesdays. Now, sometimes we close because we're out of town or things are going on. And so the best thing for Casita Amarilla is to follow on Facebook, because that's where Tracy will post, "Oh, we're not open this Tuesday," or "We're not open this
Okay.
Wednesday," or whatever. Or there also will be notices about the next Casita talk or things of that sort.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then as far as the books, if somebody came in there and they were looking for a particular kind of book, they
Yeah.
just have to sort of
Well, it's
uh,
the fiction is in one area,
okay.
nonfiction's another, so they're generally organized in that
Okay.
regard, and we try to keep them alphabetized by author.
Oh, okay.
For the most
Wow.
part. For the
This
most
is
part, yeah.
wow.
Well, it's kind of fun too, because then we become a little more familiar with what's on the shelf. Somebody says, "Oh, I'm looking for a Danielle Steele," or whatever it is I might be looking
Right,
for. Then
right.
yeah, we know where those are. And so yeah, so there is some organization to it. And then there's an area where we have local authors, and
Oh,
that's
that
kind of cool. There's
yeah.
one area that's like this we call the Surfer's Cove, because this surfer dude came in and brought a bunch of books on surfing. So there's an LGBTQ section. So there are little areas like that too, kind of
Now,
specialized.
how long has this existed here?
We've really been, I would say 3 years that we've been doing it.
Wow.
Maybe 2.5, 3 years. Um, what we really had to do first. So when we got the property, it was just brush all through the landscape. The house was a
Wow.
bunch of colors that we didn't care for, and so Tracy is the real visionary when it comes. Well, for the whole thing, to be honest, but for the garden in particular, it really feeds her soul to have
Hmm.
herself down into those plants and everything.
I
So
think we have a photo of that, don't we?
of the
The,
yeah, the garden is gravel,
okay.
because that was just the easiest thing to handle. And then there's plants, and it just kind of changes. Gardens always take a long time to develop,
Yeah.
and
And so
this
like
one
all
is
the
no
natural
exception.
plants of the
Yeah, well, we try
area.
to, yeah, if it doesn't survive with, I won't say minimal care, but
Hmm.
uh, modest care, then it doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
So yeah, most
That's
of the things there. Okay, so this is, if we're going to talk about the images,
yeah.
this is actually, if you're on the free road and you're looking at Ollie's on the left, our parking lot's on the right, and that wall there and that door is where you go through. And usually we'll have a little sign. We have a portable sign we put out that says Casita Amarilla. It's not in this particular
Okay.
photo.
So is that a gate? I mean, you pull
There's
into
you can
your.
just go right. No, there's no gate into the parking lot even. That's actually
Oh,
changed since
okay.
we've taken that photograph.
Okay.
So yeah, it's real easy to get in there, and we have a relationship. And this photo is about the murals. So I do a lot of. We have one mural that's kind of was a group effort, but a lot of the murals I have done with Tracy's encouragement, and so that's a lot of fun for
Wow, you're
me.
artistic too.
Well,
So,
it's all part of just being out there and trying to make things happen,
that
and
almost looks mosaic, but it's paint,
that's
right?
all just paint. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's really pretty.
So we really between the murals on the walls and the
Mm-hmm.
garden and the books and the gathering, and there's a there's the path leading up to the porch. That porch is where a lot of groups meet. It looks
Uh-huh.
a little dark under there on that particular photograph, but it's got lights that you can turn on at night, and that's a real comfy little spot to gather and just get. And there's a
Yeah,
little
look
bit
at
of
the
a view of the
beautiful,
garden.
yeah, the
Yeah,
beautiful plants.
yeah.
Nice walkway, little pathway there.
And we have, there's a friend, our friend Kate helps with the garden some. That's the gathering area. The chairs are there are set up kind of in a circle. And maybe I could talk a little bit about the groups that meet.
Absolutely,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
Tranquilo is a group that meet, and I've got this written down, so I want to get it right. Tranquilo meets third Sundays, and you would park in the parking lot, you go through
Okay.
that door, and they meet third Sundays at 10:30, and they used to be called Not Church, so that gives you a feel for
Oh,
them.
okay.
But at
Okay.
Tranquilo, and so there's usually some meditation, there's some discussion, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very well organized. Marty
Mm-hmm.
Benjamin and Mary Contreras run that, and they do a beautiful job.
Mm-hmm.
That's Tranquilo. There's a meditation group that meets the fourth Tuesday of every month. I think they have an online Zoom thing through the rest of the month, but they meet in person on the fourth Tuesday from 2:30 to 4. There's a men's book club that meets at 3 o'clock on the second Thursday of the month.
Yeah, we had one of the authors, Mark
Yes,
Rogers,
yes,
was one
yeah,
of our
yeah.
guests.
Mark, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Ron McCabe, who has he spoke. He has a winery and a beer place down in the Valle and a wonderful restaurant. Anyway, he spoke about his work as well.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's a writing circle that meets Monday at 2, every Monday.
Wow.
And again, I mentioned the Casita Talks, which we try to do generally on Wednesdays around 3, but depending upon who's speaking, that could shift. And like I said, it'll be Julie Albright this coming May,
Mm-hmm.
well, I think there's a lot of people looking forward to hearing. She's an expert in these kinds of things. A little bit about AI,
Well,
artificial
that's
intelligence.
all
So
in the news right
it
now.
really
You know,
is,
so
and it's just kind of it's exciting and scary at the same time.
exactly.
And I think she has this broad view of it that I think is gonna it'll be a good talk. I
Why,
think.
you know, it's like just to get off topic a little bit about that
Yeah.
AI, you know, it's like every single post I'm starting to see on Facebook has these AI generated images
Yes.
and they all look the same,
Right.
just the words
It's
change.
really troubling to me
It,
because I can't trust any kind of moving image anymore.
yeah,
And images have always been hugely important to me as an architect and
right.
somebody who loves art. I put a lot of stock into images that they mean things, and if I can't trust that it's real, then that's kind of unsettling.
I
So
know I was just seeing something this morning on Facebook. They were showing what a Google image of a house looked like 10 years ago
uh-huh,
versus now.
right,
And some of them were like these AI generated, really super modern versions
yeah,
that like, and they're going, no, that can't be real
right,
because,
right, right,
you know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, that ought to be an interesting talk. So the Casita talks are once a month usually,
Generally
or?
once a month. Yeah, we
Okay.
try to get one in a month and get people lined up. Like I said, I think we've got Julie for May. We're aiming to have Bob Urell come in and
Mm-hmm.
give a talk on in June. I'm not sure we're very far beyond that, but if somebody's interested, they can just kind of contact us through the
Okay.
Facebook page and send us their idea and come talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
And
So what's your vision going forward for
I
the
think we're
Casita?
really doing what we want to do. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's one of the things that Tracy's always been good about is maintaining a good scale of operations.
Mm-hmm.
Our firm at one point we had 8 people working for us, and then we had 2 and 3, and then 5, and then 1, and blah, blah. And she was always good at saying, we don't have to be the biggest firm in town. We just want to let's make it right for our life. And that's kind of what this is about. It's like, well, why are you only open 2 days a week? Well, because that's what we want. Because we want to travel. We want to have the
Mm-hmm.
weekend off. People come into town and, we want to spend time with their friends and we want to go to other things that are going on.
Right, right.
And so I think right now it's really hitting where we want to be in terms of our commitment and the kind of what we can provide as a resource for the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, did you find the tradition, I mean, the transition of moving from Texas to Baja an easy thing for you,
I think it
or?
was for us because both of us grew up as itinerant children. Our
Iti-
parents,
okay, now that's interesting. What do you mean by itinerant?
our families moved a lot. Would be another way to put it, maybe better. My father was in the Air Force.
I was going to say military.
Tracy's father they just happened to move around a lot. And we both went to like 10 different schools by the time we finished high school,
Wow.
and that
Jeez.
is just nuts. But I think what that made us both capable of is change, and
Uh-huh.
also aware that there's some really interesting places in the world to explore. And so the actual change to being here wasn't that. I mean, there's always changes to take into account and differences, but we were ready. We were ready. I think I shared with you and something I sent in an email about what kind of spurred this on for us.
Well, it's sort of a tragedy. I don't know
It,
if you
it, it
want to.
really was. It was in, and Tracy wouldn't hesitate to talk about it if she was here. And that is, she had her older sister and her younger brother both committed suicide within 4 months of each other.
Wow.
And here we are in our practice, we're doing things, and we had relationships with them. They were in
Mm-hmm.
different towns and things,
Mm-hmm.
but that was a huge wake up call. It's like, okay, what are we doing here? What's important to us? What's our life about? There was a lot of kind of thinking through things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so the memorial for Tracy's sister was in San Diego, and her nephew, the son of Tracy's sister, uh, and his wife, Mexican wife, and they were boyfriend girlfriend. Now they're married and they live in the States. But anyway, they said, "Hey, let's go down to Mexico. Let's go to the Valle after this memorial for
Oh, wow.
Kimberly."
Mm-hmm.
And we just had a get time going down. The view, that drive is
Oh,
just
yeah,
amazing. So
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
drove down. We went to way too many wineries in one day. Came back, and we said, you know what, we need to. And we came back. That was in June of 2015. That December, we stayed a month in Plaza del Mar
Uh-huh.
Club Section. It looks very different today than it did then, but it was a wonderful stay. And we found the property then, after having been down there just twice. And in that month, we looked at 10 properties, found something we liked, and made it happen. And, basically everything then was aimed towards maintaining the practice and aiming towards being in Mexico at some point. And that's what we did.
So you retired before you moved here full time, though, right?
No,
No?
actually, oh, before, yeah, full time, yes. So for about 8 years, we would drive back and forth. Since we had our own practice and we decided not to have any employees anymore, we could do a lot of things remotely. And the one of the silver linings, if you could say that, of the pandemic was everybody started getting on Zoom and
Oh,
understanding if you didn't respond immediately, and phone calls and emails and that kind of thing was
uh-huh.
fine. And so for our practice, it worked because a lot of that stuff's done digitally anyway. We'd go
Mm-hmm.
back for site visits and all that. So back and forth worked very nicely. And
Mm-hmm.
we drove and we made the drive fun. And we have two little dogs, and we put them in their crate and bring them along with us. And then so it would be a couple of months here, 4 weeks there, 6 weeks here, back and forth. And so we did that for a while, and then it just got to the point where what, we're in a situation where we can retire and we're ready to retire, and we did that last job and took that last paycheck and not looking back.
So obviously you were a traveler growing up. I mean, you
Yes.
could have picked anywhere in the
Oh,
world to
well,
to to move to.
that's a great question. And we did look at a lot of things. I mean, we both loved Italy. I mean, Costa Rica was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we chose here in Baja, in Rosarito in particular, is one, there was family nearby. At the time, our son was living in LA,
Okay.
Tucker, and also the nephew and his wife, and they had little ones coming along, and so that was something that we were
Mm-hmm.
anticipating. And so it was like, okay, we want to be near family was part of it. The other part, frankly, was okay, medical. If later on, if we're really retiring and we're going to have Medicare and all that sort of thing, might be a good idea to be somewhat close to the states where you can just drive there instead of
Right.
having to fly from Costa Rica or Italy or wherever.
Right. Right.
So those were some of the kind of initial thoughts that encouraged us to be here. And it's, I mean, we haven't had any real major health issues or anything, but it's just kind of comforting.
It is
Yeah.
good to know, and
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people feel the same way. But I know a lot of people that might be watching this show that don't live in Baja, and they
Right.
go, "Oh, how can anybody make
Yeah.
that kind of move?" But they
Yeah.
don't realize what we really have here. It's a simpler life. It's a peaceful life.
Yes.
A
I,
slow down vibe.
I think it is, and I think it's a lot of it's the people. I mean, the weather's
Yes.
amazing. When we were in
Hmm.
Texas and the heat, and I don't like I've lived in cold climates too. I mean, this is just the weather here is just unbelievable. So that's huge. Being near the ocean. Anytime, there's studies about you live longer if you're near a body of water. It could be a river, it could be the ocean, it could be a lake, a pond, but somehow those kinds of things tend to help people,
Yeah.
last longer, and and not just live longer, but thrive longer.
Right.
That's the thing, and so that's a big part of it. I'll be honest, one of the challenges for us has been the language.
Mm-hmm.
We work on it, and for us, it's respectful to know as much Spanish as possible because
Right.
we're in a Spanish-speaking country, so we do our best.
Right.
And that's constantly a struggle, but we try.
But is see that's the other thing I find is almost like just the opposite. The Mexicans here,
Yeah.
they're always trying to help us, and
Yes.
they're very forgiving.
Yes.
And I know we have a favorite restaurant we go to, and
Uh-huh.
one of the waiters, he's always, I want to practice my English.
Exactly.
They're trying to practice their
Yes,
English,
and I've
and
seen that too. Yes, yes.
yeah, it's really
I
funny.
remember one time I think we'd purchased a TV or something at Walmart. I can't remember, and there was some confusion about showing the receipt, and I was trying to get it, and this person came and they helped,
Hmm.
another shopper on their way out, and they helped and everything, and did the translation, and they said, "Oh, I just wanted to practice my English." So there is that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's that
yeah,
dual thing, and that's what I think makes Rosarito and Baja in general such a wonderful place to live, is
yes,
that the people are very forgiving,
yes.
and
The the locals, I'll say locals, I don't know if
yeah,
that's disrespectful, but the people that were born here and live
yeah,
here, they're wonderful. Our experience has always been very positive. And then the and then the Americans, or I'll say North Americans, that typically that's what we encounter. Uh, Also, there might be a different belief system. Here's something that Tracy kind of pointed out once. I
hmm
think was very helpful. There are a lot of people that have different belief systems.
hmm
Okay. And, maybe they believe in a flat earth or who knows what. Fine. I don't have to share your beliefs, but if I can share values with you, then we can be friends. Then we can talk.
hmm
Are you loving? Are you caring? Those kinds of things. Those are the values that we find are very consistent here, even if somebody is a flat earther or whatever they might,
right,
believe. So that is something that you can really find in common here with the people that we
hmm
have found that have decided to live here. One little joke I sometimes make, and this may sound odd, but I'm just going to say it anyway, is that everyone that's ended up down, we say everyone that's ended up down here in the Baja, there's a little something wrong with them. And
well,
and I know it sounds bad. And I include myself in that. The thing is not there's something wrong with them, but you look at things differently. You look at the world differently. You want to experience something differently, and we like that. We like those kinds of people.
well, it's interesting because today actually happens to be the 7-year anniversary when I moved
Oh
here.
wow,
I was
nice.
just thinking that while I was waiting for you to arrive today, and I'm thinking, wow, how much has changed in my life and
Yeah,
whatever in the 7 years.
yeah.
And I had a major upheaval in my life in 2020, and the first thing everybody said to me, "Are you moving back? Are you moving
Oh,
back?" And
yeah,
I didn't. I persevered, and
yeah.
I've been a happy person ever since.
Great.
I've got a certain painting in my living room that says, "And she lived happily ever after." And I looked at that today and I go, yeah, there's something very peaceful and warm, and of course the ocean. When you
Yes.
live by the ocean, that's my happy place. I don't care what's going on in the day as long
Well,
as
listen, I tell you, there was a day when years ago, Kimberly, Tracy's sister, and I and Tracy, we were all in the car going. We were going the one up in California
right.
driving, and I'm driving, and they're just looking. And I'm from Texas, and I've always been a little bit afraid of the ocean. And I have
Really?
there's another story if there's time I would tell it. But anyway, the ocean, I'm very respectful of the ocean. So
Okay.
I'm driving along, and they're just, oh, look at the ocean and everything. And I said, are you kidding? It's death out there. You can't go out there. You can't survive out there. And so they weren't, and they didn't understand, But what I've come to though is that, and I don't have to be out in the ocean, but I do enjoy it. I've come to just really love it. It's
Well, it's
really
the
peaceful.
waves. It's the
Yes, the
sound of the
sound. Well, the
waves.
birds too. What's
Oh
amazing
yeah.
too, the difference between, because we lucky enough to live right on the coast. There's a whole slew of birds and animals and things that exist there that don't happen at the casita is maybe 150 feet from our
Hmm.
house. It's a little enclosed garden, walls, trees, and there's different kinds of birds. There's different kind of sounds. There's a
Hmm.
slightly different temperature. It's just and so having that kind of variety within walking just right there around
Wow.
us has been really wonderful too.
Oh.
And I think you can find pockets like that in Baja. There's little,
Mhm.
our little, somehow our little bit of coast seems to not get as cloudy as some others. Some folks that live on the estuary, it gets a little cloudy because of the way
Mhm.
all the atmospheric stuff and all of that. We happen to have an area that's a little more sunny, but there's little pockets of wonderfulness all through Baja, all through Rosarito, we
Well,
found.
it almost is like little mini climates. I know we'll
Yeah,
be up in, over by Walmart, northern Rosarito,
yeah,
and we're driving, and all of a sudden, oh, it's cloudy at home because
right.
the way the coast curves
Right,
in,
right.
and it's like, oh,
Yeah, it either collects or releases or whatever it is it
yeah.
does. But yes, it's quite wonderful. Yeah.
Now I had a laugh when I read because you did share with me your story and Tracy's story.
Yes.
I had a laugh when I read Tracy said that she's directionally challenged and that
Yes.
she appreciated
Oh yeah.
that the road, both the free road and the quota, go north and south
Yes.
because it isn't very hard to
That's huge.
get around here.
She gets. You can always count. What I like to do, and this is very respectful. And if she was sitting here, I'm not saying this behind her back. No, sure. We'll go into a restaurant, and every time we come out of the restaurant, she'll always go the wrong direction when we leave the restaurant. She'll always, we're going to the car, right?
Yeah.
She's always going to go. So that's kind of where. But no, she loves it, and she loves being able to, and she feels very safe here. You come, you go, you do your thing. You're careful with the traffic. I do a 3 count when I stop at the stop signs,
Yeah.
just to make sure
Yeah,
I don't roll through.
I was gonna say stop signs are more of a warning than an actual alto.
I don't want to. We've had no problems with any kind of police or any of those issues. You read about that stuff on Facebook, and I'm not saying I'm sure it happens. I
Yeah.
know it does, but because I have friends who have experienced these things, but we've not had any problems with any kind of police or anything like that. It's
Mhm.
always been very positive.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I appreciate that you two want to share the stories of Baja and people here. And I think that's a wonderful experience with that little casita that you've created. What a wonderful community space. There is one person I know that recently went through an unexpected death in the family. And I
Mm.
saw on
Mm.
Facebook that he was at your casita and found a book on grief.
Oh,
So
wonderful!
yeah, and
Yeah,
then he shared that on Facebook. So
yeah,
what you're doing is really important here.
great. Well, thank you.
Applause to you. I can't wait to meet Tracy at some point. You guys have definitely shown your architecture and your love of art in that little building. It's so cute with the
Yeah,
yellow walls and the landscaping. So thank you so much for
yeah.
taking time out. I know normally we usually tape the show on a Tuesday, and I know Tuesday's your day
Yeah,
open.
yeah, that's right.
So
Well,
thank
I'll be
you.
at the casita tomorrow,
Okay.
and then we've got somebody watching it Wednesday because I'm meeting Tracy in San Diego to bring and our son to come on back down. But that's the other thing. We've got great people that support us by
Wonderful.
sometimes being there when we can't. So yeah, it's a great space. We really enjoy it, and it feeds us as much as it feeds anybody else. We do. It's really it's very important to us.
Well,
And thank you. Giving these interviews, I think, is also. I certainly understand it. I applaud what you guys are doing,
oh,
both you
thank
and
you.
Diego. Sure.
Thank you.
All right.
Because just like you said, there's so many stories here, and that's the thing. We're here to share the real stories of real people that live here in Baja. And if you've got a story to share, whether it's a hobby that you have or an experience that you have, or just talking about what made you come here to Baja, the place that we now so many of us call home, we'd love to hear from you. So send us an email, studio212team@gmail.com, and we'd love to feature you on a future episode of Baja Buddies, of Baja Tales and Travels. So until next time, thank you, Joe,
Thank you. It
and
was
thank you,
wonderful.
everybody. Have a great day.